Hey Chris, nice to see your swing again. Much better than before. Keep up the good work and keep on working on the items from lesson 1. So this is lesson 2, and I wanted to go over some other very important variables. So on the left here we have Rory McIlroy. Of course, on the right we have you. One of the most important parts of this lesson is going to be the setup. So if you look at the yellow lines and how your arms are situated, they're very tight, and they're actually in what I would call a supinated position, where Rory here on the left, his arms are more pronated. When I get on camera later in this lesson, I will talk about the difference between pronation and supination, but in simple terms, all you have to do is relax your arms more at setup. Drawing a little circle here, you can see just how little spacing there is between your forearms versus on the left here with Rory. He has more spacing, and this is affecting your takeaway and your backswing. Also, one other variable with the grip, you can see your right thumb here working kind of across the club. And here's your right hand, where check out Rory. So here's his thumb. So his right hand is kind of going more down the grip, more or less. So I would try and emulate that setup a little bit. I know he has a driver, so don't worry about the wider stance. Your stance otherwise looks good with the feet. So main thing is, though, loosen those arms up. Because of the way you're addressing the club, this is what's happening on the way back. So when you have more width, again, here's Rory. The right arm is on top of the left. And it's not like you ever have to achieve this much width to play great golf, but I like to use Rory as a model from this angle. Whereas with you, here's the left arm, and that right elbow is still poking out underneath the left arm a bit. So as you relax the arms and get more extension, I think automatically that will help you turn better. So check out this yellow line here. Rory is turning substantially more than you, and I tried to measure this so that on the way back, this is about identical in terms of the frame on the backswing. So here's your turn. You can see not quite as much turn. And when you don't turn, that will also lead to ball striking issues with consistency. Now you're doing a great job of loading into that right leg. Way, way better than before. And even though you might be swaying off the ball just a little bit, that is much better than the alternative, which of course is making a reverse pivot. So soften the arms more width, and then that will get that right shoulder pulling more back towards the target. And then that's another swing thought you can incorporate. Just again, make sure you don't have 5 swing thoughts or 6 swing thoughts at once, just 1 or 2 at a time. But you can get that right shoulder turning back more. Fix those arms at address, and that alone should help a ton. So let's move on to the next segment where we look at some of your video footage. All right, so your swing from down the line here. Takeaway from this angle looks dramatically better. Really nice. Pretty much going right up the plane. Check this out. Club head is here. Hands are here. Really nice. Also, I can see just how much you've been working on this. The left arm is across the chest quite nicely. Right elbow has gained some depth. Now, I drew that line in the top of your head and the hips just to see how you're moving in relation to where you started. So your head is bobbing upwards, and then your hips are coming off that line just a bit. I can show you a drill for that. And part of this is also due to the way you're turning. This position with being across the line at the top, ideally you would want the club aimed a bit more that way. When I get on camera, just to repeat myself, I'll talk about that. It's tying back to the whole pronation and supination deal with the arms. So a little bit steep here initially, but you're able to shallow it out a lot better than before. You can see here's the club head. That is pretty nicely situated in the right forearm. So I can clearly tell you've been working on this. better. And then let's look at the other angle, face on. All right, so from face on, again, we'll work on changing that setup, and then I think I mentioned this last time, but I would maybe flare that left foot outwards just a touch more and bring this right foot inwards a little bit more. But the arms will be the most important part. So I drew the line on the hips and the side of the head to show you where you're moving relative to where you started. So again, definitely I see a big improvement with bracing into that right side. You're creating a little bit of a gap here. Now your head is going with it because of that lack of turn. Okay, so we'll get the right shoulder feeling like it's pulling more that way, which I'll explain better when I get on camera after closing out this clip. But this is impressive. So here's where you're at now. Now watch how beautifully you're shifting that weight. Especially with an iron like this, that is some fantastic lateral drive. Much better than before. So again, loosen the arms. And then we'll get you turning back more to mitigate the sway. A lot of good players, if you watch like a Greg Norman or a Vijay Singh, they have a similar motion where they're loading right and they bob off a little bit, but they're just turning more. So their head's not going to move quite that much off the ball. A couple inches is fine, but this, as I stated earlier, this is always going to be better than the alternative. And once again, the alternative is a reverse pivot where on the backswing, remember before, your hip was actually over here on the opposite side. So really nice work in there. All right, let me get on camera so I can go through some of this material and explain this. All right, Chris, so I'm on camera here. A couple of things to show you that are very important. So if my arms are right now, let me just actually put my hands together. So it's like I'm clapping my hands together, okay? This would be neutral. When I rotate my palms towards the camera and my forearms upwards, right? That is supination. So even if I did it from here, rotating my palms and forearms towards the ceiling is supination. Generally where the palms go, the forearms go too. Not 100% of the time, but most of the time. The exact opposite of supination is pronation, where the forearms and palms are rotating downward. All right, so let me do that one more time. So supination, palms and forearms opening up. Pronation, forearms and palms going down. At address, you have a ton of supination going on with both of your arms, and because of that, this ultra supinated position, it's forcing your right elbow to be pinched down and too low, and it's also very hard to make a good shoulder turn in this position because it's restricting width. So if you feel like you're more pronated, or you could just feel like your arms are more relaxed here. If you watch that Rory McIlroy image I put on too, that will help. So in the takeaway, the right forearm and the right palm, right, it's facing directly downwards. When I do this, automatically my shoulders are turning more and I'm getting better width. Very important stuff. From this view, another drill you can do regarding the shoulder turn, as you continue to load right, which you're doing a nice job of improving, I want you to feel like your right shoulder is being pulled up and behind you, almost as if it's being pulled towards the target. Just make sure when you do this, your weight is going deep into the right foot like it currently is. So that will help with the turn as well and mitigate that sway. And then from this view, even though your plane is looking a lot better, because of that supinated position with the arms at address, at the top, you're starting to pronate, and that's why you see that crossing of the line of the club. So if you pronate at the beginning and then start to supinate, right? A little bit more at the end, you'll get the club in a more laid off position. And then if you supinate even more on the way down, you can see that shallowing motion. So, once again, pronating, adding some supination, and then trying to supinate even more, that will shallow that club out so you're not coming in steep. But all in all, a great job. It looks way better. And then I'm going to show you a drill I was doing recently in the gym. You can do this at home, you can do this outside. This will also help you with your turn, as well as from the down the line view, I talked a little bit about how your hips were coming forward and your head was going up. So let me close out this lesson with a pretty neat drill that you can do. And of course, work on, one thing at a time. One drill at a time until it's a habit, and then go back and work on something else. So here we go. So Chris, here's another drill you can do. You don't have to be in a gym. Just find the corner of a wall, or you could use your net outside. But what I'm doing is I'm practicing on making a turn, and notice how when I turn back, my head went down and my right hip got deeper, opposed to my head bobbing upwards and my right hip going off the line. So I'm exaggerating a steeper turn. It's just a feeling, and on the way down, I want to maintain that tilt and feel like my left hip is deep. So it's not like you have to have this much bend, especially if you have an injury. If anything feels painful, stop. But the idea of making a steeper shoulder turn will help you. And golf is counterintuitive. If you look at a student of mine, this is the before photo on the left. He was not making a very steep turn, and his arms were way up in the air. Over here, check out the angle that he gained. So he's bending over at the waist more, and his arms, though, flattened out. So much better position on the right. So once again, this is a drill you can do inside. Just find the corner of a wall at your house, or you can do it outside. It's a great drill to maintain hip depth or increase your hip depth and just really work on that turn. So, all right, sir, let me know how this goes. Look forward to a progress report. Take care.